Welcome to the Il Quotidiano podcast. Today we bring you to the University and Research column, an in-depth review entirely in English that aims to bring to the attention of our readers, academics and researchers some of the knowledge proposals coming from the main educational and training agencies in the area. The protagonists of the review will be some experts from the academic and research world. Enjoy listening.
Hello and welcome to University and Research, a podcast from Il Quotidiano. Every Thursday, our newspaper has a page dedicated to the university where we publish interviews of students, professors, and we gather news about laboratories, spin-offs, and other related initiatives. So don't miss it. In this podcast, we showcase a concise resume of this wide range of stories in pills. My name is Margherita Montanari, and here's today's pill. In today's episode, we'll host Anna Cereseto. She's molecular biology professor and group leader of the molecular biology lab at the Center for Cellular, Computational and Integrative Biology, the CB department at the University of Trento. Alongside her brilliant academic career, she is also an entrepreneur. She founded the biotech startup Alia Therapeutics and currently serves as a chair in its scientific advisory board. Welcome, Professor.
Good morning, Margherita, and good morning to everyone. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What about you?
I'm great.
Let's start with the interview from the field you're actively involved in, so genome editing studies, highly innovative field today. So what are the main goals of your current research, and how do you envision your findings impacting people's life?
Yeah, my current research is genome editing. Genome editing is a discipline that, so the purpose of this discipline is to modify the DNA in living organisms. So for a long time, since the discovery of DNA, it was quite clear how to modify the DNA outside the cells, so outside living organism. However, it has always been very difficult to modify the DNA, the molecule of life, in living cells. However, there was a major discovery a little bit more than 10 years ago, which is a molecule which is called CRISPR-Cas. It's a difficult molecule to pronounce. And this molecule was a game changer because it allowed us now to enter into the cell and modify the DNA while the cell is still living. This is fundamental for us to modify the DNA. In particular, for our lab, the interest is to modify DNA when mutation cause diseases. There are a large number of diseases that are caused by mutations, and most of them are not curable. So for most of these patients, there is no treatment. And the only option for these diseases is to enter into the organism and modify the DNA in order to return it to the wild type, so to the original sequence. And so since the discovery of this technology, of course, many laboratories started to work on these possibilities, including ours. But there is an issue here, which is this technology is quite new because 10 years for a therapeutic development is very little. And therefore, there are still a number of limitations of this technology. So our lab started immediately to work on the limitations to make it more precise and more efficient. And in the meantime, we're also applying to a disease, which is cystic fibrosis, which is a rare disease with no treatment. So we are putting a large effort on the technology development and also on the application for treating diseases.
It is really interesting to see how the impact of this research can change people's lives. But alongside your academic career, you're also a startup founder. And it's fascinating to see how a professor can evolve from being an academic only to becoming also an entrepreneur. So how does your process of creating a spin-off came about? And what are the biggest challenges in bridging research and business in your personal experience, which are two different fields, right?
Yeah, Margherita, you said something important. It's fascinating, and it has been fascinating also for us as scientists to try to translate our discovery in a practical application. Which is not that easy for a scientist, because as a scientist we have an approach to science which is more exploratory. So we like to explore, to follow different leads depending on how our research is going. While when we understood that our results were also important to translate into therapies, we decided that we also had to use the opportunity to build a business model around our discovery to transform our results into therapies. For a scientist, for a researcher, this is I found out it was very difficult because you have to, as a scientist, you have to enter into an approach to science which is more focused, and you have to be more practical and also think about the market environment, which is very different from a research landscape. So at the beginning, we found this, as you said, fascinating, and it turned to be very difficult for us. Probably, if I can give you an example, is probably, if you have to build a house, for example, and you have a plan to have your own building, as a scientist, you probably would start from a stone, but you may end up finding yourself in a totally different position and ending up to build your house in a different situation. So start from the mountain, and you may end up being at the beach. Okay, when you are in entrepreneurship, the situation is completely different. Where you start to put your stone, you have to build around that stone, and you have to make sure that you, from the original spot, you are building your final objective around that spot. So as you can see, it's a very different approach, the two approaches. So for us it was difficult, but so what we have learned is that we had to be helped by people that have expertise in the market development, and so approaching your science in order to make it a product that can be entering into the market. So you have to be attractive to the industry, attractive to investors, which is difficult for us as a scientist. And indeed, I've been founder. I'm currently advisor, and I'm also advisor to other company, but I let the people that are more appropriate for market development to follow our startup.
This is really interesting, and with your example, you showed us the really different approach from a point of view of a researcher and one of an entrepreneur. I will get it a little bit more personal, as I would like students or young researchers who are listening to us to draw inspiration from your words. So looking back, what experience in your journey has been the most pivotal, inspiring in getting you where you are today?
Well, this is an important question, which put me in some difficulties. But what I think it was most relevant for me as a scientist was to find myself in a very diversified environment. So I think diversification was very important for me. So working in different labs, different institutions, different countries, where I learn the job of a scientist. Scientists are successful where their mind is open to diversity. You have to be open to your scientific development. So any result, any progression, you have to be always very open to the advancement, and rather than closing yourself to what you or to impose your ideas. So you have to be always very open, and you can learn that only by having contact with diversified situations. So I think that my biggest suggestion, even to people that would like to start this kind of career as a scientist, is to be always very open to different situations. And so that my biggest lecture was to be in different countries and to collaborate with many people. Another very important thing in my life was to have this approach on always being in a learning mode. So be always ready to learn. So be humble in some way, and have good models. So follow people that are inspiring, and also use them as mentors. So I always look for people that could help me to open my mind, and they could teach me, but not just give me satisfaction on or sustaining blindly, but also challenging me. So I always look for challenges for to do things better. So learning is very, very important. It has always been important, and I keep having my mentor, and I keep I try to keep my attitude of learning process for the entire life, hopefully.
How many people do you have in your team, more or less?
And now we are almost 20 among postdocs and students and project managers, so different titles.
It's an interesting number to start from, to build something, right?
Yes, that's a good number. Yeah.
Looking ahead, what if you could see one scientific dream come true, either in your personal laboratory experience or in general in the scientific world, what would it be?
Well, my daily dream is that our results will give a contribution to science, for the advancement of science. And there are some depressing time, because science is also make a lot of frustration. So we do a lot of things that we have to throw away, because that's the path of exploration. You don't know where you're going, and sometimes you end up in situation that you realize are not the proper leads. However, luckily you have time where things work, and so you realize that you are really contributing to the advancement of knowledge, of technology development. And so these are my small dreams that I realize on the day life. Of course, my biggest dream is to find a way to treat diseases that have no cure so far. By doing this work, I have very often the possibility to meet patients and the families. And I see them, the frustration and of course the difficult situation that I have to live. And so for me, the biggest dream is a day to meet these same people and find that what we have been doing is useful to them, to be relieved by this pain that is caused by the diseases that have no cure.
Yeah. It's a really good achievement. We hope that you will reach this point. And we have reached the end of this interesting conversation with Professor Ceresetto. Professor, it's been really a pleasure discussing such relevant issues with you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Margherita, and thank you to anyone who is listening to you.
Yeah, thank to our audience for joining us. And we'd like to remind you that every Thursday our newspaper has a page dedicated to the university, so don't miss it. Thank you for being with us and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you.